I guess there are many of you who just want to use AI to create their own SaaS or web application without having to worry about data management at all. But the truth is, data management is such an essential part of development that you don't even have to think about all of the fancy features you want to add for your users until you've figured out a way how to properly manage the data inside of your application. And the way you would usually do this with tools like Cursor or Windsurf is by creating a project requirements document, adding all of the docs for the tools that you want to use, like Supabase or Firebase, and then you would have to ask Cursor or Windsurf to give you the SQL statements or database schema for that matter, but after all, you would have to go through the process manually. Not anymore, folks, because a few days ago, a new AI coding tool called Lovable has created a native integration with Supabase in their app, which means all you have to do is to connect your Supabase account through Lovable, and then you are able to create a database integration just by using plain and simple English. The app I'm building in this video is one that I've built before with Cursor. And with Cursor, it took me around 80-ish minutes to get it to work without any bugs and with a proper database integration. With Lovable, it took me only 13 minutes, which is nuts. Of course, it's not perfect and you have to go a little bit of back and forth until you get what you want, but it's mind-boggling to me that someone with almost zero coding knowledge can go from zero to full stack application in under 5 prompts. So without further ado, let's jump into the video and let's have a look at how Lovable is creating the application. Okay guys, so let's dive right in. I've prepared a prompt. Actually, I've used Grok to come up with an idea and also with a prompt. And to have a direct comparison, a few weeks ago I tried to build this app with Cursor and I did. It took around 80 minutes. So let's see if Lovable is able to do it in less time. Unfortunately, I'm on the free version, which means I only get like 5 daily free prompts. So we'll see if I can make it work with those 5 prompts. The prompt says create a full stack application using Vite and React because this is what Lovable is built upon, right? We can't really create a Next.js app. For the front end and Supabase for the back end. The next application or the application should allow users to search for keywords and retrieve YouTube videos ranked by metrics such as view count, likes, and engagement. And I'm using Vite and React for the front end. There I give a few infos about each component. So the homepage should have a search bar where the users can input their keywords, display a list of video results dynamically based on the search input. Then we have the search component, which basically should trigger an API call. We're using Zustand for state management and we are using Tailwind to style the components. And as a backend, we're using Supabase. Lovable should go ahead and create all of the necessary SQL or schema to add tables to our Supabase database and to add the users. And I also want authentication with Supabase Auth, right? A few days ago, Lovable implemented a Supabase integration, which makes it easy to connect your Supabase account to Lovable, and then basically everything runs fully automatically. So we'll see how that goes. And I also want standard error handling and optimization for performance. I mean, this is not really a big deal for this small app, but I just wanted to add it here to see how Lovable is solving this. So as for the code structure, we should organize the project with clear separation between pages, components, styles, and utility functions. And the deliverable is a complete runnable Vite plus React project with all necessary dependencies installed, Supabase set up with database schema functions and security roles, and we don't really need the documentation part here. Okay, so we'll hit enter. And we need to do a few things, right? So while this is running, we can create a Supabase connection. And for that, you first want to head over to Supabase and create a new project. Now, unfortunately, I tried to directly connect Supabase through Lovable, And it works in a way that you can authorize the API access. So you have to do this. You have to choose my organization and then click authorize Lovable. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to connect a specific Supabase project through Lovable directly. So as you can see here, it says organization, create new project. This didn't work. So this is why I will show how to do it manually. So you have to head over to Supabase, and inside of your dashboard, you click new project, you choose your organization, you say YouTube scraper, and you want to let Supabase generate a password. You want to store it somewhere safe in case you need it. And then you want to click create new project. Now this will typically take 2 to 3 minutes. As you can see here, it says setting up project at the top. So we'll give it a few seconds and then we can connect it to Lovable. Now, as you can see, Supabase has finished the setup process. What you want to do now is you want to head back over to Lovable and you want to click on the Supabase button and choose your organization. Choose YouTube Scraper and click connect. So as you can see, it says I'm now connecting to your Supabase project to gather your database structure, tables, and security settings. Right now, the Supabase table is empty, right? So there isn't much to gather. But let's read through the first answer that Lovable gave us. I'll help you create a YouTube video search application. Since this is a complex project, let's break it down and implement a solid foundation first. For the initial version, let's focus on creating a beautiful and responsive search interface, basic video results display, core state management, initial Supabase integration. We'll draw inspiration from YouTube's clean interface, but with a modern twist. Colors and styling, okay. However, before we proceed with any implementation, we need to connect Supabase first since this is a full stack application. So this was successful. As you can see in the bottom right, it says Supabase successfully connected. And now once you've connected your project to Supabase, let me know and I'll help you implement the application with proper backend integration. Okay. So it says your app is now connected. Okay, now since our app is connected to Supabase, I want you to start the implementation. So set up the authentication and state management for the client side. I also want you to create the necessary database tables and implement the YouTube API integration securely, and then store the results of this search into our Supabase database. So we'll see if that works. I basically told Lovable to create everything at once. We'll see how that goes. I'll help you implement this step. Let's start with setting up the database schema and authentication first. First, we need to create the necessary tables inside of Supabase. And Lovable should do this automatically. As you can see here, it says apply changes. So this should only take a moment and we can verify if everything went successfully. It says the migration has been applied. So let's head back over to Supabase and have a look at the table editor. As you can see, it says profile search results, searches videos. So this worked quite well. And now we'll say, please proceed with the implementation process. I'll start by implementing the authentication and state management. Let's create the necessary components. As you can see here, auth component, the header and everything. Now, you can't look at the code directly. Once it's done, you can basically look at the changes. But if you want to have a look at the code directly, so as you can see here, you click on edited files, saving changes, and now you can see what Lovable did with your code. But you can always click edit code and connect it to GitHub. Now I will do this once everything is done. But for now, let's focus on the output. So it says, I've implemented authentication with Supabase, state management with Zustand. For development purposes, you might want to disable email verification in the Supabase console. Would you like me to proceed with implementing the YouTube API? So it says build unsuccessful. Type stream is not assignable to type theme. So we'll focus on that later. Let's just say, okay, please implement the YouTube API integration and search functionality, plus the connection to Supabase. So while this is loading, let's head back over here and we'll click on authentication. And we probably have to go to provider's email. And we don't want a confirmation email, right? Because, I mean, our app is currently running on Lovable servers. And if we click the confirmation link inside of the email, we'll probably be redirected to localhost 3000. But since this app is not running locally, I will just click save, and this should just add the user immediately to the authentication table, right? So all we need to do is to sign up. So let's head back over here. Let's see what it says. I've implemented the Supabase Edge function that handles YouTube API requests and stores results in the database, updated the index page with the search form and results table, enhanced the store to handle loading states. Okay, now we need the API key. And for that, we need to do the following. We need to head over to console.cloud.google.com. You have to create a new project. By clicking new project, then you have to give it a name, and it only takes a couple of seconds to set it up. Now, I've already set up the project prior to this, so I'm going to use YouTube Idea Scraper. And then, as you can see here, I already have an API key. So if you don't have an API key here, you want to click Create Credentials, click API key, and this should be everything you need to do in order to create the API key. And then you want to click Show Key, or this modal will appear automatically. Once you've created the API key, you want to copy that, head back over to Lovable, and you want to paste that here, and you want to click Save. Now, as you can see, it says API keys have been saved successfully. And let's see if we can sign up. Let's do this one. Let's do sign up. So we were able to log in. Unfortunately, I mean, if we search for AI coding, nothing will happen, probably. Oh, okay, it already works. Damn, this was fast. Now, I mean, we're like, what, 15 minutes into the video, and we already have a working app now. Let's have a look at if this is stored to Supabase already. So if we go to authentication, you can see that we have the user. And if we go to table editor to search results, you can see that we have already a working database connection, and we can see the search results. We also have the searches, AI coding, and we even add the different videos with all of the relevant metrics, right? So the video ID, the title, description, thumbnail, like count, and everything. Damn, guys. So when I built this app a few weeks ago, to be honest, it took me, as I've said, 18 minutes. Now Lovable reduced this process to like 15 minutes, which is insane. Now let's try one more feature. I don't know if I will be able to implement it since, as I've said, I only have like 5 free prompts, but I would like to see if Lovable is able to add a new feature, which is adding specific videos to a favorite list, right? So let's try this. Okay, I want you to add a new feature. Can you please add a button with an icon to each video card? For example, a star icon or a heart icon. And when the user clicks it, I want you to add that specific video to a favorite list. Not just in the backend, but also in the front end. Maybe you can create a new tab or something which makes sense from or something else that makes sense from a user experience and user design standpoint to let the user view his favorite videos. So let's see if that works. Okay, it seems to work. So let's apply the changes. And now if we head back over here, and you can see that we have a new table called favorites. The migration is being applied. Now let's implement the favorites functionality in the front end, including the heart icon and the new tab to view favorites. Okay. Once this is done, I will probably clone the repo so that we can have a look at the code to see if Lovable has met all of the requirements that I ask it for, right? So for example, Zustand store management and everything. Okay, let's see. I've added a complete favorites system with the following features. So again, let's search for LLM coding maybe. Let's do search. And now, as you can see, we can mark the video as a favorite. So let's do this. Okay, failed to add video to favorites. This didn't work. Let's see. We'll do try to fix. If we have a look at here at the table, okay, nothing was added indeed. Ah, okay, it's a row level policy violation. So the error indicates that we're trying to insert into the favorites table without meeting the RLS policy requirements. The key issues is that we're not including the user ID when inserting a favorite. We need to get the current user's ID from Supabase auth and include it in the insert. I've fixed both errors by adding the required user ID field when inserting favorites, adding proper error handling and user checks. So let's do that again. LLM coding. Let's do search and let's test this feature. Okay, it still doesn't work. Let me see what the log says. Failed to call Supabase REST favorites with status 400 and status text undefined. Okay, so apparently violates not null constraint. Okay, so there's something wrong with the payload, I think. Let's see, try to fix one more time. For the first error, we're getting a null value constraint violation for video ID. Looking at the code, we're passing the wrong ID. We need to use video.video_ID instead of video.id. Okay. Okay, so it's not done yet. It's saving the changes. I wonder when I will run into the quota issues, but for now it seems to work. So we'll do LLM coding once more. And we try the favorite function again. Okay, it still doesn't work. Failed to call status text undefined. Okay, and this is basically what you have to do, right? So it finds an error and then it only goes ahead and fixes this specific error. And you have to do this until you basically fixed all of the future errors, right? Okay, so let's do this one more time once in reloads. Okay, now this finally worked. As you can see, the heart turned red, and inside of the favorites tab, we can now see our marked video. And if we head back over to Supabase, I think we need to reload. No, okay, as you can see, we have the video with the correct video ID and everything connected to the user, which is pretty sick, guys. To be honest, I'm impressed. This is awesome. So now let's do one more thing. Let's have a look at the code. So we'll connect to GitHub. Okay, and now let's click on Edit in VS Code and let's have a look at what Lovable actually did. So we have the Supabase function for the YouTube search, as you can see here, which is nice. And I would like to see if we have configured the store. Yes, okay, we're actually using the Zustand store, which is pretty nice. We have the search query functions, we can set the user and set is loading. And if we have a look at the components, so we probably don't need to look at this because I mean, those are ShadCN components, I believe. We want to have a look at the header, so which is essentially, well, the header, right, where we have the sign out button, but we also want to look at the main code, which is probably an index, right? So as you can see, it's following best practices because we're creating an interface. So Lovable has made sure that we're avoiding type errors in TypeScript, which is pretty neat. We're using React Query for server state management, which is awesome. And I'm not quite sure if I've specified this in my initial prompt. So let's see. Search component, results page, state management. Okay, so I said I want to use state management, but I only specified Zustand, which is for client-side state management, and Lovable went ahead and decided to use React Query for server state management. So whenever we interact with our database, as you can see here, for example, if we're fetching the favorites, it's using React Query. And React Query is pretty neat. I'm going to make a video about it in the next few days, so stay tuned. But it just makes things like caching and, well, just server state handling, basically everything that doesn't run in the client, pretty neat to work with because it abstracts away quite a lot of things. And the only thing you really, I mean, you have to understand a lot of things with React Query, but the main parts are like query functions and query keys. So as I've said, I will talk about this in a future video. And if we have it, look at auth, you can see that we have basically a Supabase auth wrapper so that we give our application access to Supabase's auth functionalities, which is pretty neat, and we're connecting it to our user store, right? So as for the code quality, I mean, as I've said, I'm just a beginner. I'm by no means a pro coder, but if I have a look at the code, separation of concerns, about the great structure of the project, it looks pretty neat. I guess I would say it's a project structure that you can scale, right? Because you have everything in its own folders and the files are not too big. As you can see here, we have the type definitions for Supabase. And I mean, you have to take into account that we've made this work with less than 5 prompts and in only like 20 minutes, okay? Compared to when I was creating this app with Cursor, which took me around, I think, 87 minutes. So I really like Lovable so far. And it makes me wonder where we are going to be next year in December, right? Because you probably won't need to have any like coding experience whatsoever. I mean, you still have to know some basic coding to kind of guide the AI. But other than that, I mean, it has even thought about things I haven't specified in the beginning. For example, using React Query. And this is something Cursor and Windsurf weren't able to do or are still not able to do when I use them for coding. And at this point, I just want to say I hope you've gained some benefit from the video, and I see you in the next one.